I thought my boyfriend was too clingy, so I engineered a harmless photo to make him back off. Now my life is a crater I dug myself. The silence in our apartment is the wrong kind. It's not the peaceful quiet of a lazy Sunday morning. It's the sterile, echoing silence of a space that has been surgically hollowed out. His side of the closet is a dark void. His ridiculously oversized coffee mug is gone from the drying rack. Even the worn-out sneakers he always left by the door have vanished. It's not a mess. It's a meticulous erasure. It's a statement. I'm sitting on the floor, my back against the couch that now feels absurdly large, and I'm staring at my phone. The screen illuminates the cause of all this emptiness. A photo of me and Declan. We're laughing, heads tilted close together, his arm resting casually on the back of my chair. It's the picture I engineered to look like an accident, a perfectly calibrated dose of ambiguity. I wanted to create distance. I wanted him to give me some air. Now I have all the air in the world. The space I craved is pressing in on me from all sides, so vast and empty it's suffocating me. I look at the smiling, stupidly confident girl in the photo, and I just want to scream at her. How could you not see this coming? How could you think you could control the fallout from a bomb you built with your own 2 hands? Lucas was, by every metric, the perfect boyfriend. That was the goddamn problem. He was the kind of man you read about in novels, the kind my friends would describe in breathless, envious tones. He remembered that I hated cilantro, that I preferred oat milk with exactly half a teaspoon of sugar in my coffee, and that a specific, obscure indie band I'd mentioned once was my go-to for stressful days. He would leave little notes on the bathroom mirror. He would text me, "Good morning, beautiful," every single day without fail, and "sleep well" every single night. For the first 6 months, it was intoxicating. I felt seen, cherished, adored. But slowly, the adoration began to feel like surveillance. The sweetness started to taste like saccharin. The constant attention felt less like a warm spotlight and more like a laser sight I could never escape. He'd show up at my office during my lunch break, unannounced, holding a bag from that one sandwich shop I'd praised weeks ago. My coworkers would swoon. "You're so lucky, Nadine," they'd say, and I'd force a smile while a wave of claustrophobia washed over me. I wasn't having lunch. I was being presented with a public testament to his devotion, and I was expected to perform my gratitude while my own plans for a quiet, solitary break evaporated. His love was a velvet shackle. It was soft, luxurious, and everyone admired it, but it was still a restraint, tightening with every thoughtful gesture. My personal space, my quiet moments, my very identity felt like they were being gently, lovingly eroded. I had a weekly pottery class on Tuesdays, my one sacred escape. Soon, he started waiting for me outside the studio, holding a warm tea, ready to walk me home. The 2 hours I cherished for myself were now bookended by him, the transitional silence where I would decompress completely gone. I was no longer just Nadine, I was Lucas's Nadine. My face was the profile picture on all his social media, a smiling icon branding his online presence. It felt like my accomplishments were no longer my own, but simply new, shiny ornaments for the life he was building around me. When I tried to talk about it, it came out all wrong. "He's just a lot sometimes." I'd venture to my best friend Olivia over wine. She'd just raise an eyebrow. "A lot of what? Thoughtful, attentive." "God, Nadine, I wish I had your problems. My boyfriend forgot my birthday last month." "It's not that," I'd insist, feeling my frustration mount. "It's like I have no air. He fills every crack in my life. I can't even be alone with my own thoughts." "You're complaining that your boyfriend loves you," she said, her tone flat. "Most people would kill for that. Honestly, you sound ungrateful." I'd shrink back, ashamed and deeply, profoundly alone. They didn't get it. How could they? To them, I was complaining about winning the lottery. Their dismissal fueled a dangerous arrogance in me. It convinced me that my problem was too nuanced, too complex for them to understand. I felt like I was the only one who could see the full picture, and therefore, I was the only one qualified to fix it. So, I stopped trying to explain. I started to plan. If I couldn't make him understand with words, I would have to show him. I wouldn't break his heart, of course not. I loved him. I just needed to recalibrate, to introduce a controlled variable that would force him to take a small, healthy step back. I saw myself as a surgeon, performing a delicate procedure to save the relationship. I was going to create a scenario, a little piece of theater, to gently, intelligently, push him away just enough for me to finally breathe. The plan solidified around Declan. He was a project lead from another department, a genuinely good guy with a quick wit and an easy smile. We'd been assigned to a joint task force, which meant late nights and shared frustrations over lukewarm coffee. Our rapport was easy, professional, but tinged with the kind of playful banter that makes work bearable. There was nothing more to it. He was a prop, a tool, and in my mind, that made it harmless. The opportunity arose at a team dinner celebrating the launch of our project. The wine was flowing, and the mood was celebratory. I saw my moment. After the main course, I leaned over to Declan. "Hey," I said, my voice pitched to sound spontaneous, "we should get a picture to commemorate this. The survivors of the Q3 launch?" He laughed and readily agreed. Every detail of the next 30 seconds was a conscious decision. I chose a spot where the background lighting was dim and intimate. I positioned myself so I had to lean in close to fit us both in the frame. As he held up his phone, I laughed at something innocuous he said, tilting my head just so. Declan, completely oblivious, slung an arm over the back of my chair in a classic, friendly pose. The camera clicked. When he showed me the photo, my heart gave a little thrill of perverse success. It was perfect. It was a masterpiece of plausible deniability. We were both fully clothed. We weren't kissing or even touching, really. But the proximity, the lighting, my laughing expression, his arm creating a frame around me, it all combined to create a potent illusion of intimacy. It was a photo that screamed inside joke, a private moment shared between two people who were clearly more than just colleagues. I sent the photo from his phone to mine with a breezy, "Thanks." For the archives. Then I went a step further. I made it my phone's lock screen. It was a bold, reckless move, but my arrogance was a roaring fire at that point. I felt like a brilliant strategist, a puppet master pulling the strings of my own life. The entire time, a small, quiet voice in the back of my mind was screaming a warning. It was reminding me of a conversation Lucas and I had months ago on one of our first dates. He'd told me about his ex, about how the end had blindsided him. She'd started by asking for space, a vague and unsettling request that he'd tried to honor. Then, one night, she'd accidentally left her phone on the table, open to a picture of her and another man looking cozy at a bar. That photo was her confession and her weapon, a cruel, passive-aggressive way to end things without having the courage to use her words. He had described the feeling of seeing it as a punch to the gut, a betrayal that was less about the cheating and more about the calculated cowardice of the delivery. I knew this. I knew that a photo was his specific, unique poison. It was his red line, the one thing that would tap directly into his deepest trauma. But I told myself this was different. I wasn't her. I wasn't leaving him. I was saving us. I was just borrowing her methods for a better cause. My cause was righteous, my intentions pure. I was so sure I could control the narrative, so confident in my own cleverness, that I willingly picked up the one weapon I knew he had no defense against. The trap was set. All I had to do was wait for the mouse. Friday night was movie night, our sacred ritual. We were curled up on the couch, a bowl of popcorn between us, the opening credits of some action movie flickering across the screen. My heart was pounding, a frantic drumbeat against my ribs. This was it. Halfway through the film, I reached for my phone, feigning a work emergency. Just 1 second, I sighed, loud enough for him to hear the fabricated annoyance in my voice. My boss is a nightmare. I tapped a few things on the screen, my fingers slick with nervous sweat, ensuring the photo of me and Declan was front and center. Then, I executed the move I'd rehearsed in my head a dozen times. As I shifted to grab a handful of popcorn, I let the phone slip from my grasp, clattering onto the cushion right beside his leg. The screen lit up his face. I was prepared for an explosion. I had braced myself for shouting, for accusations, for the jealous, hurt questions I felt I was so ready to calmly deconstruct and explain away. I had a whole script prepared, a monologue about how he was being insecure, how Declan was just a friend, how this was exactly the kind of overreaction that made me feel suffocated. But the explosion never came. There was only silence, a heavy, profound silence that sucked all the air out of the room. He didn't pick up the phone. He just stared at the glowing screen for a long, frozen moment. Then, slowly, he lifted his eyes to meet mine. The look on his face wasn't anger. It was something far worse. It was a look of utter, soul-crushing disappointment. It was the look of a man watching a beautiful idea shatter into a million pieces right in front of him. All the warmth, all the adoration I had come to resent was gone, replaced by a calm, chilling clarity. It was like he was seeing me for the very first time, and he didn't like what he saw. He finally spoke, his voice unnervingly quiet, devoid of any emotion at all. "Nadine," he said, and the way he said my name felt foreign, like he was addressing a stranger. "You knew, didn't you?" It wasn't a question demanding an answer. It was a statement of fact. My carefully prepared script, my clever justifications, all of it turned to ash in my mouth. I couldn't speak. I just stared at him, my throat closing up. "I told you about Sarah," he continued, his voice still terrifyingly level. "I told you exactly how she did it, with a picture, because she was too much of a coward to just talk to me." He took a slow breath, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of pain in his eyes, a deep, wounded agony that my little performance had expertly unearthed. "I thought the biggest problem in our relationship was that I loved you too much, that I was too much for you." He gave a short, bitter laugh that held no humor. "But that's not it, is it? The real problem is that to get me to love you a little less, you chose to punish me in the cruelest way you could possibly imagine. You used the memory that hurts me the most as a tool." He stood up then, the movement fluid and decisive. He didn't look at me again. He just walked towards the bedroom, his back straight, leaving me alone on the couch with the glowing screen of my phone, the evidence of my brilliant, catastrophic plan. The movie was still playing, the sound of explosions and gunfire filling the silence he had left behind. I slept on the couch. I don't know if I made a conscious decision to, or if I just passed out from the sheer emotional exhaustion of waiting for a fight that never came. When I woke up, the early morning light was filtering through the blinds, and the apartment was still. Too still. A cold knot of dread tightened in my stomach. He was gone. I walked into the bedroom, and the sight was jarring. The bed was neatly made, but his pillows were gone. I flung open the closet door. All his clothes, his shirts, his sweaters, the stupid hoodie he loved to wear on Sundays, had vanished. The entire right side of the closet was a barren wasteland of empty hangers. I ran to the bathroom. His toothbrush, his razor, the specific brand of shaving cream he used, all gone. The top of the dresser, where he used to empty his pockets, was wiped clean. There was no key, no wallet, no trace he had ever lived here. It wasn't the chaotic exit of an angry man. It was a systematic, methodical evacuation. He had packed up his entire existence within our shared life while I slept, and he had done it with the quiet efficiency of a ghost. Panic clawed its way up my throat. I grabbed my phone, my hands shaking so badly I could barely unlock it. I called him. It rang once, then went straight to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. My messages on WhatsApp showed only one gray tick. Blocked. I tried Instagram, Facebook, blocked everywhere. It was a digital amputation, swift and absolute. My mind raced. I had to fix this. I had to explain. I started calling our mutual friends, my voice high and strained. I tried to sound casual at first, but the desperation quickly bled through. The responses were all eerily similar. "Hey Mark, have you heard from Lucas?" A pause. Yeah, he called me last night. He's staying with me for a bit. Can you please just tell him to call me? This is a huge misunderstanding. I need to talk to him." Another, longer pause, the sound of shuffling on the other end of the line. "Look, Nadine, he told me what happened. I think it's best to just give him some space right now. He's really torn up." The word space hit me like a physical blow. The very thing I had so arrogantly demanded, now being prescribed to me like a bitter medicine. The tone was the worst part. It wasn't accusatory. It was a careful, awkward, pitying tone. It was the voice of someone who has picked a side and is trying to be polite about it. I got the same gentle, evasive brush-off from two other friends. They weren't hostile, they were just distant. They had formed a protective circle around him, and I was on the outside. In their eyes, I wasn't the victim of a misunderstanding. I was the cause of the injury. For the first time, the solid ground of my social life felt like quicksand, and I was sinking fast. Weeks have bled into a month. The blockade on my number was eventually lifted, but it was a change that brought no relief. In fact, it's worse. The silence is no longer forced by a block. It's now a conscious choice he makes every single second of every single day. A delivered message with no reply is a far more profound form of rejection. It says, "I see you. I'm just choosing to ignore you. You are not worth my time." My life has shrunk to the four corners of my phone screen. I've become a digital ghost haunting the edges of his new life. It's a sick, compulsive ritual. I wake up and I check his Instagram. I check it before I brush my teeth, while my coffee is brewing during lulls at work, and it's the last thing I see before I fall into a restless sleep. I'm not even sure what I'm looking for. A sign of sadness? A hint of regret? All I find is evidence of a life that is steadily, happily, moving on without me. He posted a picture from a hiking trip with friends 2 weeks ago. He was standing on a summit, arms outstretched, a genuine, unburdened smile on his face. It was a smile I hadn't seen in months, not since before my plan began to curdle the air between us. Last week, he adopted a dog, a scruffy little terrier mix from a local shelter. He posted a video of it chasing its tail in his new, much smaller apartment. The video was filled with his laughter. It was a sound that used to be the soundtrack to my life, and now it felt like a knife twisting in my gut. But the final blow came last night. It was a group photo from a friend's birthday party. There he was, in the middle of a laughing crowd, and standing next to him was a woman. She wasn't looking at the camera. She was looking up at him, a smile playing on her lips. His arm was around her, not in the casual, friendly way Declan's had been around me, but in a way that was comfortable, proprietary. It was a picture that needed no explanation. I threw my phone across the room. It hit the wall with a sickening crack and slid to the floor. I didn't even care. I just curled up on the couch, the same couch where I had executed my perfect, stupid plan, and I sobbed. I cried for the man I had lost, for the love I had systematically dismantled, and for the hollow, aching void he had left behind. I wanted space. I had engineered it, demanded it, and won it. And now, here I am, the sole occupant of this vast, silent, suffocating kingdom I built for myself. I am the queen of nothing, ruling over an empire of regret.